I think we're complete now, so I thought I'd just quickly say hello and introduce myself. I'm Sally Brooks. I work in the Development and Alumni Relations Office, primarily actually in fundraising, but I'm also a member of the LGBT staff network here. And this all kind of came about because David, wave David, there we go. David said to me that he'd tracked down the name of the chap who had set up our first GaySoc in 1974. So it was David's fault. And this name, all we had was a name, was Graham Beards, who is standing next to me now. We looked on his records, because we have records of anyone who's ever studied here, and the same address was on his record as had been in 1974. So we suspected that was out of date, and we were right. Through the wizardry of Google and all sorts of things, we managed to track Graham down, and here he is today. And one of the great things was we had a quick coffee with him in November, and it was a really lovely opportunity to find out more about how the first GaySoc here started and what things were like then. And just to give you an idea of what was happening in 1974, for those of us who may either not remember or prefer to forget, it was the year that the IRA began bombing on the mainland Britain, which included pubs in Birmingham. President Richard Nixon was forced to resign after the Watergate scandal. Harold Wilson became Prime Minister. We were in the midst of a global recession, so some things never change. British coal miners were striking for higher wages, forcing the nation to go on a fuel-conserving 3-day week. Tom Baker took over as Doctor Who.
What's the best one?
The Exorcist was released. And West Germany won the World Cup. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Graham, or Dr. Beards, to
Graham, please.
Graham, to talk about our very first GaySoc here at Birmingham. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks all for coming. It's an honour to be invited back after all these years. I did biology in the 70s, biological sciences. I'm here from time to time to talk about viruses, real ones, because I'm a specialist in infectious diseases. And a few years back I was standing outside Waterstones. I must admit I was looking at a lad, and he was wearing these nice necklace of beads, and his friend came up to him and said, "What are you wearing those for, Steve? Are you turning gay?" And I thought, was it all worth the effort? And then on the way home I realised, well, at least he said gay. Was it all worth the effort? You can tell me at the end. I see this is advertised as a lecture. It ain't going to be a lecture, I hope. Sally, you pinched my intro actually. The 70s were shit. It was a horrible time. We had all the drama of the 60s. That sort of spilled over into the 1970s. In most Western cultures. A bit about the law. You probably already know this, but the 1967 Sexual Offences Act, which supposedly legalised being gay, really did no such thing. It was just decriminalised sex between consenting males in private who were over the age of 21. If you were under 21, you could still go to prison. If both were under 18, it was 2 years. If one was over 21, it was, I forget, 5 years. 5 years imprisonment. So there was still a lot of persecution, both by the state in terms of the law, and very persuasive homophobia throughout society. Nasty man. I used to like going to Manchester. Manchester was very gay, it still is. There was a few pubs and clubs I used to go up to from time to time. And it was amazing, even after the law, even after the changes in the law, the police bent over backwards, if you pardon the expression, to suppress and oppress gay people who were meeting up. And this guy, he was the chief constable of Greater Manchester, and he found this bylaw which banned licentious dancing. And he used this basically to close down the bars and the clubs in Manchester. Yes, it was a dark decade. We had the oil crisis, the 3-day week, the miners' strike, which brought down the Conservative government. Thatcher learnt a lot from that. She stocked up with, made sure she stockpiled the coal, so when the next miners' strike came in the 80s, the same thing didn't happen. a 3-day week. Television finished at 10:30, which wasn't much to worry about because there wasn't that much to watching. And of course, the 1979 winter discontent. We had this terrible period of inflation. Annie, we remember this? Your money wouldn't last. You couldn't buy the same things from one month to the next. Just the prices were going up so phenomenally. And forgive the pretentiousness, but this all gave rise to a counterculture, quite a vibrant counterculture. And you're all beginning to think, what's this got to do with GaySoc? Well, part of that counterculture was the gay liberation movement. And during this talk, because I was heavily involved in both Gay Liberation Front, the Gay Education Group and GaySoc, the whole thing in my memory is merged into one. But the university here was the centre of all this activity with a group of people who you'll probably meet as we go through the talk. Just to illustrate what was going on, with the PLO blowing up planes in the desert, the 3-day week, which the CAD was acting, the so-called second wave of feminism. Of course, that was very influential to the early gay movement, this second wave of feminism. And the Black Rights in America, Vietnam War, and of course Northern Ireland. The counterculture was sort of these wonderful magazines. You didn't bother to read the Times or the Telegraph. This is what you wanted. You wanted ink. These lovely offset litho magazines that Che Guevara with his gay lib badge on his thing. And of course Oz, this particular edition of Oz became quite a course celeb at the time because it was actually written and edited by school kids. And it was obscene, most of it. And it was, the editors were prosecuted and received jail sentences. The gay liberation movement per se really started in New York, following the Stonewall riots in late 60s, and it inspired the gay movement in Britain to a great extent. This all looks rather blasé now, but at the time that was really quite a, you can imagine going around doing that, you can't, it was quite a sort of revolutionary thing to have done. A few more, Gay Liberation Front, Gay Power, Black Power. This is pretty much how we saw ourselves. We saw ourselves in a minority group with the same, facing the same obstacles as women and as black people. The actual Gay Liberation Front in Britain started at the London School of Economics in 1970. It was Bob Mellors who had been to the States, and he brought back the idea of the movement to the UK. And, and some of you'll see some of mine actually. Everything was sort of done in basements and bedrooms and things, you know, these leaflets or whatever. Their first GLF magazine, 5p, November 1971, come together. Their statement of their aims: we are different, we are a threat to the family and society, we challenge sexual stereotyping of women and men, so on and so forth. African demonstration. I found this on the internet. This is a plaque that someone's put up. The first gay rights demonstration in Britain took place here in 27th of November 1978 with the GLF badge. It's not blue. I put this up and I spent a dreadful night. This is the South London Gay Community Centre in Brixton in the early 70s. I had a horrible time down there. I was telling Sally the food was awful. And I said, the food is awful. And the person said, well, aren't you a vegan? And I said, no, I'm not a bloody vegan. She said, but you're gay. Shit, I'm not really gay because I'm not a vegan. And also the police were like they were stalking us. There was always, the police were always around. The literature at the time, which was, I brought the original one of these for you to pass around, informed what we were doing greatly, particularly this one. It's still relevant. Downcast Games, 27p. My particular favourite was Dennis Orban, who was an Australian. That was a proper hardback book. Pretty much about coming out. was how gay people should come out and the difficulties they face at the time of coming. Our own little manifesto, and Don Milligan's actually retracted most of this, but this was pretty much a Marxist analysis of gay oppression and how we sort of disrupt families and much of which has been retracted. You can read that on the internet along with his retraction, saying that it was pretty influential at the time. And other literature, of course, was gay news. I do miss gay news. I don't miss gay news, certainly from the 70s. As you know, it was prosecuted because they published a dreadful poem. And Mary Whitehouse took them to court and basically closed the magazine down. Gay news used to come out once a fortnight. It used to be 10p, went up to 15p. And noisy people out there. Pretty much a pioneer. What was the porno mag, unfortunately, he was just gay news, Jimmy Savile. If you put Joe D'Alessandro into Google, make sure your safe search is either on or off, depending on is Andy Warhol's favourite actor preferences are. Okay, I wasn't on this is slightly before my time. I was on the subsequent ones. This is the first gay pride march in London in 1972. Please just look at the police. Where are the gay people? Please, 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 please.
Presumably there weren't any gay police officers in those days.
She's smiling, isn't she? And I have to compare and contrast. Pretty much the same place, probably looks like towards Oxford Street. That was last year. Spot the Copper, and I couldn't resist that one. No excuses. It's just a very, very nice picture. Okay, back to Birmingham. Centre of activity, as I say, was pretty much the university, but also the Peace Centre. Now, this is the back of Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's is here. There used to be some tiny little shops. One was Reddington's Rare Records and Reddington's Ruin Records, as we used to call it, driven by second-hand LPs. And the Peace Centre, which was, it was not owned by the Quakers, but it was funded by the Quakers, was it not? I remember. And it was really the CND, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, used to meet there, and the Gay Liberation Front. But it was a little bookshop with all these lovely alternative underground magazines that I was showing you off. That's Peter Kirby, that's Neil Matthews. Neil was at Aston University. We had quite a few students coming here to our GaySoc from Aston at the time, because there was nothing there for them. That's how we came across it. That's how it looked at the time. The Peace Centre. Red brick. Would you believe that this university hosted the Gay Liberation Front annual conference in 1972? I think it was the second one. The first one was at the London School of Economics. Red brick then published an article. He wasn't homophobic, actually. He wasn't. I wished Red Brick archives were better. They don't seem to go back very far. I thought it was a fairly enlightened piece. Very popular. That's my first time probably ever in history I had to reprint one. And this is where Chris and I came in. Chris was already doing physics here. In 73, 74, he gave it up and went on to do philosophy. I was about to come along and do biology. And we decided to set up a GaySoc. We wanted to have a GaySoc. And this is our first flyer. What we had to do, we had to apply to the guild and say we wanted a GaySoc and the reasons why. And there was no problem, so go ahead and do it. They gave us £50 a year to fund this sort of carry on. So everything was done with felt tip pens and photocopiers and whatever, no computers unfortunately. And you'll get to recognise my style. This is my actual phone number over in Upland Road, just across in Surrey Park. And we used to meet in St Francis Hall, which is, do you know St Francis Hall? It's And that's me. Yeah, that's Chris. The badges were so important. I mean, really important. A lot of the philosophy of GLF, Gay Liberation, was a presence to be seen, that you were out and about and you were just people just as much. So the badges were really important to us. And some people went completely out the top and they had the whole set, you know, was the 70s. But the badges were important. There's Chris's badges there. My favourite one was that. I don't know. This one, I thought the guys who wore that, it was mainly guys, I have to say, who wore that were very proud walking around Birmingham. Were very brave. But the badges, I wished I'd kept them. I haven't got a single one left. Never mind. That's Hyde Park, by the way, after a great gay pride march. That's Chris. This is New Street. You know the ramp that goes up to New Street Station? It is handing out a leaflet which we printed in Upland Road. The leaflet says, "Are you homosexual?" So there we go. In New Street on Saturday afternoon. Are you homosexual? You're homosexual? A lot of them ended up on the ramp. And it was, if you were, you'd go to the peace centre, or you could ring our number at home, and we would, you know, actually no one ever did, so we never found out what we were doing. That was this. We did it on the ramp at New Street, and we also went to the bull ring. This is what the bull ring. This actually, these photographs I got them off the internet. They're slightly earlier, but this is what it looked like. The bull ring was, I think it's quite a sterile place now. I hate it. The bull ring was the centre of Birmingham. That's the markets were there, the people were there. This is where we were at leafleting. On that very spot, we were stopped by the police handing out these and threatened with arrest. We couldn't quite get from this copper what the charge would be, what we were inciting or not inciting or whatever, but he got quite aggressive to the point where we decided to move on. Leafleting, how it was done. I say it was all done in Upland Road on these things. Oh God, an old second-hand typewriter, mechanical typewriter, and we used to have to cut these things called stencils. You have to bang the typewriter so hard you actually knocked holes in this material, and that was then used to transfer ink. Like that was each one, you know. Spent hours doing that. Onto absorbent paper, which we'd then hand out. You couldn't see what you were typing at all. You could use this correction fluid. It was not Tipex, it was this red stuff. It's set like nail varnish. We soon found out that proper nail varnish was better. There was always some nail varnish lying around. It was actually much better than the stuff they gave. Really messy, just completely black tarry ink off these things. And we used to sit over there, type them up, write them out in longhand, decide what we want, type them up on these stencils and crank them all out. There you are, that's 49 Upland Road, Sally Park, Gay Soc HQ. It looks very, looks like I was rich, I wasn't I? That was my room there, I ate, slept, everything in that one. Communal bathroom, which I hated, was there. 49 Upland Road, Sally Park. And this is the, some examples which you can see now. But the library, Central Reference Library, has got a full set of these. It's the Gay Liberation for new sheet. If you were very good with a biro, you could draw on these wretched stencils. You'd have to have a good eye, because you only got one go at it. So that was, first of all, it started off as a new sheet. That's the back of it. If I thought that these were anything other than disposable, I would have used rust-proof staples to hold them together. That's all done with a felt tip pen. June 1974, 5p. We started, one of our members worked for a printing company in Saltley, and we used to sneak in middle of the night and started using an offset machine. First of all, just for the cover, because we wanted something to look a little bit more stylish and professional. That's just an ordinary BT unnicked. No care for copyright or anything in those days. That's December 1974. The contents were still done on the Gestetner. We then moved on to printing these things semi-professionally. Glad rack, took us about 2 hours to come up with that. We're over in Exeter Road. I'll tell you about Exeter Road later on. What shall we call it? I mean, this, that, and the other. Then there's Malcolm Gibb, actually. He said, glad rag, because we're glad. And you were mentioning rag, student rag days, and it's rag and drag, and so we were stuck with it. I've got a souvenir. You've probably never seen a golf ball typewriter. If you want to change the font, you have to take the head off and put another one on. This is the golf ball we used to type of glad raggings, and God knows where the typewriters go. What did we write about? I'll show you that in a bit. Well, we decided there weren't enough women. This was always a problem. There's not enough women. We need, because the women's movement were very strong, and we based all our philosophy of politics pretty much on those of the women's movement with regard to sex and so forth. We really felt that we were pretty much a man's group rather than a gay group. This is my design for our special women's edition of, God knows who these people are. I've just cut them out of the newspaper. Stuck them in the middle. And this one from January 76. This is, I've got another picture of this because this is quite sentimental. This is the Pershore Road, 1975. That's me there, with long hair, holding this. I made that. That even was red. I stuck, you know this stuff that your mum used to use to tart up the kitchen, or even your dad? Sticky stuff, white sticky stuff, and you could, sticky plastic, peel off plastic. And yeah, we cut the letters out with that, and I ironed them on with my iron. It took me ages. Trouble is, we got a physicist to make the poles. And he designed, it was just solid wood, and he designed it, well, we can't carry poles this long on the bus. We need some way of joining it together. So there was solid wood with this stainless steel collar that sort of held the two together. Bloody picked them up. Instead of a mechanical engineer to design the poles for the banner, not a physicist. That's Pershore Road. I don't remember what we were demonstrating about. There's Frank, he was at the Communist Party. That's Lou, he was the first transgender person I ever met. We chose this because at the time, this is not what lesbians were deemed to look like. This dreadful film called The Killing of Sister George with Beryl Lee, we mentioned that. This was quite a striking image. Today, it probably doesn't feel, it's just a sketch. That was a real striking image at the time, it was 1976. This is what was inside Glad Rag. Pretty dull reading, actually, with the benefit of hindsight. Bit of politics, a bit of sociology. There's another one of my drawings. That was what has science got to tell us about being gay? Well, the answer was fuck all. I spent 2 pages with a more detailed argument. And an attempt at satire. This is my attempt at satire. Harold Wilson was the Prime Minister. The Labour Party were really quite proud of their track record with regard to women and gay rights, but riddled with hypocrisy too. This is Harold, and I'm very proud of my achievements as Prime Minister. Homosexuality is now completely legal. Abortion is widely available. Women have equal pay and opportunity. Mary, fetch my slippers. What's that Cliff Thorpe up to? Jeremy Thorpe was a political liberal leader who was gay and got himself into a few scandals. And what did we do socially? We didn't socialise very much on campus. It still wasn't safe for us, or people didn't feel safe. We used to hire Digbeth Civic Hall. It's called the Institute or something now down in Digbeth. Not the main hall at the we didn't get the main hall at the front. We got a little hall at the back, and what was we using was how much was the entrance was. It's 50p in advance or 60p on the door. We used to stick these in bus shelters around town. I used to go out with a bucket of wallpaper paste. The mess I got into, and Chris would drive around, and we got bus stop. Pasties up all over the place. And we went a lot to North Birmingham, which is still is sort of more deprived than the south, as we felt sort of outreach, you know. It was nice today. I came a little early, seeing all these homemade things, because I did a shitload of homemade things. I haven't got the originals because they went up on walls. I used to paint them in poster paint or watercolour, then go out and stick them up around campus on the boards, and some boards under the physics bridge, obviously in the guild. I used to put some around by the registry, if it's still there, all over the place. And it was this. This is actually a sketch for a poster. And it was just that we met in St Francis Hall at 7:30 on Tuesday. We had a gay week of action. Part of which we hired a film. We got scraped some money together to hire a film. We chose the Rocky Horror Show, which there's a cinema, theatre, lecture theatre, somewhere here, there or somewhere. Not a pretty lecture theatre, but dubbed as a cinema. We showed the Rocky Horror Show. After we found a projectionist who was prepared to show it, because Richard Dyer, who I mentioned later on, said, "Be careful," who's to ask for so-and-so to show the film, because all the others would refuse because they consider it too scandalous in the Rocky Horror Show. We did that, and I sort of copied this into a poster. I was very proud of it. We actually got the guild to print it. It was in colour. It was my first professionally printed poster. I did it in black, red, and put some little crosses on it for them to line up. And we printed about 50. Well, the guild printed about 50 of them, and we stuck them up similar places. And I noticed now, you think this is homophobia, it's not. Some guy was following us and they were putting cuts through them with a Stanley knife. And I said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "Oh, these are so good, so the students will take them back to their rooms to put on their walls." I said, "Well, bloody let them." Put one of my posters on. Don't put knives through it. So on the night of the film show, we're waiting for everyone to turn up, and some lad turned up with a Film Society membership card. And Chris said, "No, I won't do this. It's GaySoc. This is GaySoc." He said, "You'll have to pay. This is GaySoc, not Film Soc." And I took Chris to one side. I said, "Chris," I said, "this is about a presence, not a profit." Chris is now a health service manager. You can come in if you want. And that was great fun. We also were on the radio. I thought, oh God, my mum's going to find out now. Because at my time, my mum didn't know. There's BRB down in Aston. This is Dave Jameson. For some reason, he got wind of our gay week of action. So we went down to BRB in Aston and we were interviewed about what we were going to do. I'm glad there's no recording of this. I can't remember a thing what we said, but it was important. We were on the radio, we were talking about being gay, we were talking about GaySoc at the university, and this was being broadcast at the Midlands. Okay, back to the university. There used to be, it was an official guild publication, but it was no more than a poster display in what I used to call concourse in the guild. Is it still called concourse? You go in the guild, and it's that big on the side. And it was behind Perspex, and it was an official guild publication, but it was just basically photographs and jokes and things. And it was called The Wall, because it was on the wall. This is not it. This is a reconstruction from memory, where it's pretty damn close. And it followed, about the time of the Gay Week of Action, this turned up on wall, and it was all about the happy club and perverts and flashes and things. Of course, we weren't very happy about this, because this was going against all we were trying to achieve. So we took them. There is I don't know whether they still have it here, it's called the Press Council. And it was sort of our mini Press Complaints Commission. It was basically a student body who deemed whether or not guild publications were gone beyond the pale or have not. And it was Steve Moon was the president of the guild. His name's in gold in the council chamber. He wasn't gay. He chaired this meeting, and he was so thorough that fair play, that it should deem fair play should take place. And the secretary of the guild, his name as well, is just as you come down the stairs, but I've forgotten it. He stopped me a couple of days later, just outside the window here, I was walking across, and he said, I don't approve of what you're doing, but I approve of the way you're doing it. And I thought, I take that as a sort of a vote of confidence. Anyhow, they had to take it down, so that was another victory. Doesn't sound a lot, but these tiny little things were so important, this tiny little victory that we got. The other tiny little victory was, at the time, the Medical Society used to have an annual drag queen ball. Now these days, people probably go thinking it's a laugh. At the time, this was not nice. This was sexist and homophobic incarnate. You know, the way this is not a picture from it. This is, we don't have one. I've got one here. And this used to happen every year, and it was not tasteful at all, or not right on, as we call it then. So we decided to protest. Now Annie was sitting there in the red. Has brought this along. It's a dreadful photograph, but this is outside the guild.
I didn't take the photograph.
No, but you were there. So we decided to protest, and the women's movement joined us on this. And this ended up with a debate of the guild as to should this guild tolerate sexist events. And there's a couple of lefties saying this, that and the other. And I was sitting there. This is down by founders. The names all changed in the guild or something. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. And a few lefties said this, and a few women said that. But nobody said, nobody gay spoke. So I thought, bollocks, I've got to go and say something in front of all these hundreds of students, And I can't remember what I said. I went to the front, I just said, hello, I'm Graham, and I'm a member of GaySoc, and the rest is blurred into memory, into whatever. But we won. There was a vote. I don't know whether it still applies now, but the guild banned sexist events. Amazing. I thought, what they're going to think on my course, so I went back to the biology building. I was on Guild Television as well the following days. Guild Television still exists. Used to have some studios down under the Great Hall. So I was interviewed on that, so that was a little bit too intimate exposure. And I went back to my course, everyone's going to know now Graham's a poof and he's doing this, that and the other. And not knowing what reaction I got, the only reaction I got was from a girl called Jane Barker, who just smiled at me. She's now Jane Shirley. I still see her every couple of months. She's the head of the virus laboratory over at Heartlands Hospital. There was no problem whatsoever. There's really scared, as we get big enough, this, that, and the other. There was absolutely no problem. Sort of moving on a little bit, we decided we needed a gay. There was a lot of antithesis about the gay scene in Birmingham. The pubs were really quite sordid, to be honest, and the clubs were really restrictive, sort of men only and all sorts of things. We decided we wanted to have a more alternative place. So we managed to, I don't know how we got the money, but we managed to raise the money to get the lease on this building in Digbeth, which we declared would be the Birmingham Gay Community Centre. There's a basement. I used to run the disco in the basement on Saturday nights. And this actually was, we had all of it apart from the shop there. This is going to be difficult to explain, but it was a safe place for kids to go. We used to have some 16, 17-year-olds who obviously couldn't go to bars, and so on and so forth. And we debated whether we should let them in because of their age. Until somebody said, when you were 16, would you wanted a place like this to consider would be gas? So they were let in, and it was a safe place for them to. No alcohol. It was just a dance, Coca-Cola, whatever. The Friend used to meet around the corner. Friend is still going, I think. This was this counselling service for gays who were having problems accepting themselves. Friends of the Earth, I think, now own the building. We rented the warehouses at the back to them. I think they own the whole lot. That went Gay Centre 75 to about, Annie, can you remember? Probably not, 78. Okay, a little bit about, I'm sorry about this is getting to the slightly boring stage. What literature was available in the 70s if somebody was gay and wanted to gain a fuller understanding of their predicament. Well, there was Everything You Want to Know About Sex by David Rubin. Now, Woody Allen had the right idea on this one. He turned it into a comedy film about having sex with sheep and all sorts of things. But really, the chapter on being gay was deeply, deeply offensive. There was sexual deviation. If you pop, you okay? I think I'm gay. I'm going to go to Waterstones and find out what's wrong with me. Women who are predominantly homosexual usually show evidence of a deep sense of insecurity in general, as well as a failure to realise their own femininity. Okay? Male homosexuals are actually immature in the same kind of way as their female counterparts. The homosexual male cannot make an erotic approach to woman because he's frightened of her. We used to give out copies of DJ West as a booby prize at the Gay Centre. When we had a raffle, we always have to have a booby prize because he was a libertarian organisation and we have to have a winner. We had to honour the losers as well. So we used to give them a copy of DJ West. And all I'm going to say from this is that part 2 was, of course, Cure. Little bit about sexual politics, or we said at the time. This is Martin Cole. He was lecturer at Aston University. Annie, you know Martin. He made this film called Growing Up. It was a good film. It was to educate kids about sex. The 70s was still pretty prudish. Forget the 60s, like the 60s never happened. In the 70s, it was still, you could not talk about wanking. You certainly couldn't talk to kids about wanking. You certainly couldn't tell them how to do it. Not that you have to. But Martin Cole decided he would, and he made this film, and it was a good film, and it was an educational film, and it was an important film. He didn't mention being gay, didn't come into this film at all. That's a still from the film. You can get the BFI. I've got a copy of this if it's worth watching. But having said that, Philip Cawthry, who Annie and I both know from the Dark Ages, wrote an accompanying book on the fundamentals of sex. And Philip was actually quite live and let live. Really. Not exactly a gay libertarian, but who gives a toss sort of thing. So enter. You have to realise a lot of these groups overlap. GLF, GaySoc, so did the Gay Education Group. I was also in the Gay Education Group because it was pretty much GaySoc anyhow. And we used to meet at Exeter Road in the back room of the house. And the members of GaySoc were me, Richard Dyer. Now, I don't know how many are into films, but Richard's now the professor of film studies at King's. He turns up on the telly from time to time. I've done a director's commentary for Seven, and so there's me, Richard, Colin Jeans, I think he was a plumber. Malcolm was doing psychology, not here but at Keele. Pat Appleday was doing politics. Dave Jordan was doing physiology. Poor old Dave died a few years back from aortic aneurysm, but he was professor of physiology at UCL. Ray Jumping was doing physics, and Peter Kirby was an actor. And what did we do? We went to schools to talk to sixth formers about what it means to be gay and gay. Pretty interesting. You think you'd be scared to go into a bunch of sixth formers in the 70s and say, I'm gay, have you got any questions? But that was really quite uplifting experience for me anyhow. We wrote and edited and printed Gladrak, of course. We met with psychiatrists, including those that had practiced aversion therapy. I don't know whether you heard of aversion therapy, one of the cures. Sheena Cameron was her name. We circulated health education leaflets, would you believe? We complained constantly to the ITV and BBC. We nearly got Huey Green the sack on an occasion. And we took the news of the world to the Press Council. Now, I wouldn't dream of doing that now. Well, I would. No, but to take a newspaper to the Press Council, I think, how did we do that? How did we take a newspaper to the Press Council? It was called the Press Council, it's now the Press Council. I think they called somebody Buff or something, something deeply naughty. Gay Education Group. Remember, this is the 1970s, this is before HIV virus emerged in the West. And I made myself most unpopular because I was going around saying gay men should use condoms. What a party pooper Graham was. Because of my background in which I was building up, at least I was firmly established now. My background in infectious diseases, I was mainly concerned with syphilis and gonorrhea, let alone not knowing what was on the horizon. So another one of our gay education group methods was gay, VD concerns you. We also, in response to Martin Cole's film, to get to the point, we wrote our own book. So his film was called Growing Up, ours was called Growing Up Homosexual, and it went into two editions, and we would, when we were allowed, just give these, sell them or give them away to schools. Just trying to think. It was actually just not memorable. It just what it's like to be, if you're gay, you know, you have sex with guys or girls, you know, it wasn't. Spent hours and hours and hours arguing over the wording. Okay, I'm coming towards the end now because I think I've gone on a bit. 40 years on, you students here, so you're used to this expression, compare and contrast. Mm-hmm. That's Birmingham last year, that's somewhere in America. Okay. And sorry about this, but I can't help it, I've been doing it for so long. This is the world. Blue is good, orange and brown and red is bad. We owe it to our brothers and sisters to support them. Because the going is getting fairly good, not perfect for us. You have to remember, it's still hell for gays elsewhere. Annie, you don't know, I spent a lot of time in Russia. I love Russia. It's improving slightly, but Russia is not a good place to be gay. Tried to have a gay pride march and just broken up by the police. Uganda's a little flare. And Uganda, of course, you know how that's going on over there. It's becoming one of the most homophobic countries on earth. We should stand up for our brothers and sisters in Uganda. We should stand up for our brothers and sisters in Iran. Now, I know there's some controversy over this, but these two boys would not have been hung if they were heterosexual. They would not have been hung if they were heterosexual. They were hung because, for whatever the reasons, but because they were gay. Okay, this is the end. Finish on the hangings. About me, I work in the National Health Service, which I have done all my life. I've published research on mainly on viral gastroenteritis, which is a bigger killer than HIV by a factor of 10. I have done some work on HIV. I'm currently the honorary consultant clinical scientist and senior biomedical scientist at Houston Hospital, and I'm still living in Birmingham. And if you want to see how pretty it was when I was your age, it's a terrible picture, but that's me standing next to the counter-fascist group, which is something else that I was involved in at the time, because we didn't like National Front very much. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I haven't bored you too much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Graham. I think it's a really, really good summary of how things work. So if you should. I do have occasional moments where I think about how things have changed, and yes, there's still, and you're absolutely right, there's so much to do, but I was struck by your book, Growing Up Homosexual. It's about 10 years ago, when I was in my dim and distant early 20s, I was featured in a documentary called Growing Up Gay for Channel 4, and it was the first programme that was ever broadcast specifically for schools, because it was just after the repeal of Section 28. So even now, we're still sort of pushing those things back, which is really good to hear. But does anyone have any questions for Graham? Whilst we've got him, because we've got until about 1:45.
Did you grow up in a political family?
No.
What made you start being active?
That's a good question. No, I didn't. Working class family in north of Birmingham. My dad worked in a factory, and so did my mum. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. It was here. It was here. It was GLF. The presence here. It was that. I'm not answering your question very well at all. No, I wasn't criticised at all. completely apolitical family. It was coming to university and discovering the small core of GLF.
You mentioned the Guild quite a few times. Where did they get in the way?
The Guild? No, they didn't. They gave us 50 quid a year. That's 50
That's
quid.
still what they give us. Really? Is it 48?
They were, the president was very supportive over the sexist events thing and the war. I never had. No, I mean, they didn't bend over backwards. There was there was a woman called Elaine Hobby, who was head of welfare. And when I was struggling with this complaint against war, she was very, very supportive of me. He went along to the meeting with the press council, just sat at the back, just to have more support. The following week, War published. Her name was Elaine Hobby. It was this terrible thing called Elaine Pastime, and they just made themselves look more foolish than Elaine, really. She was head of welfare. She was very supportive. On the whole, many years ago, the Guild was supportive. I mean, they let me and Chris start a GaySoc in with no argument. Just do it. That was enough. Yeah. That was enough from them. I couldn't really expect much more, and I didn't expect much more.
What happened to the Birmingham Education Group?
Oh, what happens? We get jobs. That was the problem. It's a good question. Yeah, what happened to GLF? What happened to we got jobs? Yeah, then we need careers. I went into infectious diseases. Richard, obviously, bloody professor of film studies. We got jobs. We had to go out and earn a living, buy our houses. We didn't have any. There's a term for it now. Succession plan. There's a term, isn't there? We didn't have a succession plan. That was the fault. So when we all graduated, the group went with us.
Did you talked a little bit about those specific incidents, but generally speaking, it sounds as though you didn't get a great deal of hassle from other students.
We wouldn't go in the main bar and kiss. That's another place in the union, which obviously goes by the Guild goes by another name now. We wouldn't go down there. But no, the main harassment we got was from the medical society, from the medics up the road. They were the enemy incarnate. They were the ones. Oddly enough, they were the ones who made life difficult.
It's bizarre, really. I work at medical school now, and it's fine. It's all good. You're very safe here.
Yeah, I'm a medical student, and the LGBT society is quite active there.
Yeah.
Quite good.
Oh, we had medics. Adrian Moss, who unfortunately not live anymore. He was a founder of Body Positive for people who had to live with HIV. He was a member of Gay Soc. He was slightly younger than me, so he came along with me. Obviously, he was a medical school here. And Joe Lee, yes, man, he died of HIV in 1995. He used to come to the discos in town, but he was too scared to come out on campus. You could not speak to him if he was with his guys. That's
sorry.
Is there anything you'd like to see more of at the uni? Like more advocacy in any way, or
I don't know. I mean, you guys seem to have got your act together. I mean, I'm obviously not that in touch anymore. I'm just here occasionally trying to tell environmental health officers the difference between a bacterium and a virus. That's what I spend my time doing. But you guys seem pretty much. I mean, I don't know. That's the question you should ask yourself and yourselves, really.
What would you like to see for the future for?
It's not to be an issue. It's to be being gay.
To being gay with young people, or you've got gay marriage coming up. What do you want to?
Like I've always said since I was young, to be regarded in the same way we regard people who are left-handed. It's just not, should not be. Okay, we should celebrate it. We're all sexuality should be celebrated. But really, it's just, oh, she's left-handed, oh, she's gay, oh, he's left-handed, oh, with blue eyes, brown eyes. It should just not be a subject of discussion or debate at all. Having said that, there's still a lot of work to do in UK. I'm not saying give up on the cause, brothers and sisters. Of course, I'm not saying that. But in the future, it should just not be a complete non-issue. It's a spectrum of human variation. We should just treasure that.
When you put your, you had your own phone number up on the the first flyer.
Yes.
Did you get many people calling up
Yeah.
who never actually came along because they were too scared to?
One or two. I got a couple of guys turning up who wanted sex as well, David. It has to be said. I don't know whether they got it or not. I can't remember. I think they may. I think they probably did. Yes, we did. Silent calls as well, but we never put the phone down. We would just hold them, you know, until a great click.
Right.
Did you get any abusive calls?
Yes. Yeah.
I believe you had some advice from someone who people won't have heard.
I had some advice from Quentin Crisp. Now, Quentin Crisp came here in the mid-70s. He gave a talk in the Chemistry Lecture Theatre. He was sort of semi-arranged by GaySoc, and he also gave a talk in the debating chamber at the Guild, which is wonderful. Now, Quentin is not a liberal politician. What I'm trying to say is his views were a bit not right on. But he was well known at the time because of The Naked Civil Servant, the film of his life had been on television in the early 70s. So we got him here. The Guild actually the Guild paid for most of, because he obviously didn't do these things for nothing because he was so poor. And it was a wonderful day. He spoke at the same chemistry in the morning, and then he spoke at the Guild in the afternoon. And he said to me and Chris, never put the phone down. If they ring up, just talk to them, even regardless of what they're saying. You know, just keep them talking. He said they will hang up quicker. Are you wanking? Yes, okay. So that was a bit of advice. We also had Mary Whitehouse here. We had a debate on pornography, and we got Mary Whitehouse to come along. Ooh, that was interesting.
Was there much resistance from religious groups on campus?
No.
No.
Not at all. Whether they, in private, we had great support from the chaplain, who was a Roman Catholic. That's why we met in St Francis Hall. He said, you come here, you'll be okay here. It was down some steps as well. And that was the chaplain. So no, whether, as I say, in private, they were conspiring against us, there was no evidence of that. No, there was no problem. None.
And you say that you set up a community centre because there wasn't really anywhere to go in Birmingham. When was it that there was the gay scene was like commercialised?
There's always been a gay scene in Birmingham since the late 60s. The Nightingale Club opened in Camphor in 1969, moved to Whitton in 1975, then into their first premises in Thorpe Street in early 1980s, and then to Kent Street where they are now. But it was for men, and it was for drinking. It was a drinking pickup. Probably still is to a great extent. For men, not for youngsters, not for women, not for gays who've got straight friends. You want to go somewhere where the gay person felt secure, you know, with their straight friend. You could go to the Nightingale. I know you could just walk in that, and I'm pretty much walking out the Nightingale these days, but at the time there was a big bounce on the door, and if you didn't like the look of you, if you didn't look gay, you weren't a man. I managed to smuggle Annie in once. That was I don't know how I pulled that off. And that was when it was in Whitton Lane. And there were the bars, there was the Viking, which was my favourite one. That was a student bar on Smallbrook Ringaway, aptly renamed Queensway. I liked that one. There was a Jester around Holloway Circus, which I didn't like very much. But that was about it. And it was all about money. You could go to the gay centre, have a good night and not spend a penny, you know. Free disco, didn't charge for anything. We used to do a whip round at the end of the night. Whip round. Put some money in this. tin. That's how we run it.
Did you try to network with other universities? Or
Yes, we did. We Aston in particular, because they haven't got a GaySoc, so we made it clear that students over the way, you know, that exclusive university up the road, they were more than welcome. We also went to Warwick, and not with a view to sort of joining forces, but to encourage them to set up one there. I remember giving a talk to a guy called Simon and some assembled students on how you set up the GaySoc, and I hadn't got a clue. I just said you go to the guild and say, can we do it, and then you find a room and you've got one. You know, that's how you do it. That was Warwick. Yeah, sorry I forgot who asked that. Was you, wasn't it? Pretty much it, really.
Have you been involved in any advocacy events with the NHS for like gay and lesbian healthcare professionals?
No, I haven't.
etc.?
I haven't. It's just personal reasons, actually. I've lost a few friends to HIV. I did some of the early research was on HIV, and I used to hear things I didn't want to hear. Okay, I'll tell you this. I was at a scientific conference in London in the early 80s, 83 or 84. I was presenting a paper on HIV, and there was also hepatitis B, which at the time before the vaccine was a problem for gay men, hepatitis B. And it was a formal scientific presentation with, you know, tables and graphs and whatever. And this guy stood up and said, I can't remember exact words, but basically said that he believed that gay people deserve this and we shouldn't bother doing research into these subjects or something. And I thought, fuck it out. So I just said, as a gay man, I find that deeply offensive, which was, you know, this was a scientific meeting that I just had to say it. I couldn't let this bastard let us sit there. And hopefully he was shunned afterwards, but he didn't speak to me. And the other reason is, I forgot your question, involvement. I sort of deliberately chose, I've always wanted to be a virologist. But I thought I can't do HIV. I've done some work in HIV. You can look it up on Medline if you want to see what little I've done. It's just too close to home. I sort of chose viral gastroenteritis, which is a bigger killer by far, by a factor of 10. This thing called rotavirus. If you want to see my other life, put Graham Beards and rotavirus into Google, and you'll see what I've done on that. I'm actually very proud on my work on viral gastroenteritis. I know, difficult to prove. I'd probably saved millions of lives in the discoveries I've made on that. But HIV was too close to home. There were 3 or 4 papers, but I've grown it, I've tested drugs on it, but no more than that, really.
That's probably quite a good place to leave it, although I suspect we could all probably carry on with this all afternoon. Thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's been such a pleasure. And,
I hope you got your money's worth. We'll be passing it.
We're very proud. Thank you everybody so much for coming. It's been fantastic to have you all here, and for the really interesting questions as well. So thank you.
Thank you.